How's it going, Starseekers? Hope everyone's keeping sane, and welcome back to the channel and another indie game review. Today we're going to be taking a look at a game called Project Starship X. It's a fast-paced roguelike shmup with Cthulhu-inspired themes and bullet hell style boss battles, which does away with the traditional shoot-'em-up rules and puts its own spin on the genre. Featuring 14 levels which are randomly selected for each playthrough, procedurally generated elements, and mad events which get thrown into the mix. Right off the bat, Project Starship X has a ton of replayability, but does it do enough to keep you coming back for more? In this review I aim to answer that question, so don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get into it. So as Project Starship X boots up, we get a casual seizure warning notification, but this is to be taken somewhat seriously as there's plenty of flashing imagery in the game. Now as you get to the main menu and take a look at the game's guide in the hopes of getting to grips with its mechanics, you'll notice right away that Project Starship X is a game which doesn't take itself too seriously. This kind of silly humour runs throughout the game, and I rather found it to my taste. Heading into your first game, which can be played in either 1 or 2 player mode, you'll find that there are 4 over-the-top anime-inspired characters to select from, each with their own quirky personalities. But to start with, you can only play as Garrett Zeppola, a veteran pilot who has no fear, or Gwen Rossi, another veteran pilot. Each pilot in the game comes with their own starting attributes, those being movement speed, starting health and weapon power, as well as unique weapon fire patterns for each of the ships. Now as you begin a new game, you'll start on one of 4 of the game's base levels. Project Starship X features 14 levels in total, but the rest are unlocked as you play through the game, and I wasn't quite sure whether unlocks are based on the score that you earn, how many times you've played or beaten the game, or a combination of the two. Getting into the game's controls then, you move your ship around with either the left thumbstick or D-pad, and the rest is actually pretty simple as you only really have 2 buttons to worry about. The first of these is your shoot button, which can be held down, saving your thumbs a bit of work and allowing you to auto-fire. But firing your weapon will also slow your movement speed down, which is great when you require precision movement during bullet hell segments, but not so great when stuff is flying in from all angles and you need to dodge out the way. So you're gonna have to get used to stopping and starting your stream of bullets depending on the situation. Your second button engages your ship's X maneuver, which plays just as big a part in the game as shooting things does. The X maneuver is kind of a short range dodge, which jets you forward a short distance, enabling you to avoid enemy projectiles and making you invincible for a short period of time. It's worth noting though that there's a brief cooldown period between dodges, so you need to execute them wisely. Now, not only can your X maneuver get you out of some rather sticky situations, it also has several other uses which generally involve you ramming your ship into things. Throughout the game's stages, you'll encounter flashing enemies who you can lock onto automatically and can smash into with a tap of the dodge button, or other enemies who first need to be weakened before being finished off with an X maneuver. And the X maneuver is used extensively throughout levels to traverse past various dangers, often requiring you to perform a combo of dodges in a row. Now unlike most one-hit death shmups, in this game, running into an enemy, one of the projectiles, or any other hazardous level feature will cost you a shield, and your current shield level is displayed on the left of the screen. While losing all of these will of course end your run, the game is actually quite forgiving and you'll have plenty of opportunities to restore your shields via pickups found scattered throughout levels. Like all pickups in the game, in order to collect these you must first dash into them, and in addition to the shield you have a ton of different power-ups with which to soup up your ship with. I thought there was some nice variety to the power-ups in the game, and these include weapon power-ups which either increase the damage you do with your current weapon or switch it out for an entirely new weapon with a different fire pattern, There are also pickups which provide orbitals which rotate around you, adding extra firepower to your arsenal, or items which are activated by double tapping your dodge button, and these include things like EMP bombs which clear all on-screen projectiles, or invincibility buffs which make you immune to any sort of damage for a short period of time. Oh, and there's also this shopkeeper who appears after a couple of levels to sell you items for the gold you earn from killing enemies, but just don't mess with this guy because he's hard as nails. Now, levels themselves are all uniquely themed and feature some fantastic visuals, and you'll notice right away that many of these level themes and the enemies within them reference all kind of iconic games and movies. You have this Super Mario themed level where you can enter pipes into side areas, kick shells into enemies to destroy them, and drop the level's boss into a pit by jumping on a green palace switch. You also have some xenomorphs from Aliens, and a tank vehicle which you can hop into like in the Metal Slug games, though this one is a tad more fragile. Now, unlike standard shmups where level layouts are generally predetermined and you can play them repeatedly to memorise the layouts, levels in Project Starship X actually feature procedurally generated level elements. What this means is that while parts of levels do have some set layouts, as you work your way through them, sections of levels and enemy encounters are randomly selected from a pool of possible configurations. In addition to this, after your first playthrough, you'll also unlock something called Mad Events, and these are additional events which occur at random in levels, often forcing you to react quickly and think on your feet. Now, despite all this randomness, I found levels in Project Starship X to be very well put together, and each has its own challenges for you to overcome. Some levels see you switching between flying and walker modes, where your X maneuver is transformed into a jump and you have to weave your way between patches of spikes. Others have narrow corridors for you to navigate through, or spiked walls with enemies behind them which you're forced to lock onto, meaning that you can't actually use your dodge in these areas. For me, the most challenging of the early areas has to be the sun level, where you constantly gravitate towards the sun on the left side of the screen and face a final hail of meteors, which can be a little tricky to navigate through. So aside from the standard enemies that you face, several levels also feature secret sub-bosses for you to beat, which often reward you with power-ups in addition to points, and the end of levels usually culminate in a main boss battle. Now, bosses in the game all offer a decent challenge, and many of them feature bullet hell style dynamics with several phases to fight through, though in general I found the earlier bosses to be reasonably tame in comparison to the bosses found in more hardcore bullet hell shooters. Unlike level layouts, you'll face the same boss at the end of each level, and while bosses have their own mechanics and projectile patterns, these are persistent throughout playthroughs, so it's possible to memorise them after you've faced them enough times. Upon beating a boss, you move on to the next level, and each run requires you to beat 5 levels, with the 5th level featuring a more challenging end boss. Now, these end bosses sort of aim to progress the game's storyline, and it's purposefully left quite obscure to encourage you to play the game over and over. After completing runs, you usually unlock a bunch of new stuff, including new characters, new levels, more challenging patterns for enemies and hazards, and even madder mad events. Your high score will also be recorded for the run, and you can compete with other players around the world for the top spot on the online leaderboards. Now, in addition to the standard game mode, Project Starship X also features several additional game modes, though despite me enjoying them, unfortunately I'm so terrible at shmups that I haven't actually yet managed to unlock any of them. According to the guide menu though, these include Hardcore mode, which makes the game a bit harder, Ultra Hardcore mode, where along with yourself your pilot builds up stress, Boss Rush mode, which is pretty self-explanatory, Chaos mode, where the game spawns whatever it wants, whenever it wants, and a Super Secret mode, which for me will likely remain a secret until the end of time. So overall, out of all the shoot 'em ups that I've reviewed on the channel, I'll go so far as saying that Project Starship X has been my favourite. It offers a ridiculous amount of replayability due to its procedurally generated level elements and mad events, has a ton of stuff to unlock, and features online leaderboards, something which these days I consider to be a must-have in any arcade style game. When it comes to negatives about the game, there's really not that much I could criticise, and about the only thing I could fault it for would be forcing you to learn as you play. There's not much in the way of a tutorial, so it's more of a trial by death playstyle till you get the hang of things. Other than that, the storyline could have been a little stronger, but I don't think it's ever really been a main priority in games of this genre. Visually, I thought the game was pretty stunning. I love the retro style artwork and variety in both the levels and enemy designs, and audio wise it has some great retro sound effects and an awesome high tempo chiptune soundtrack. If you're a fan of shmups, I highly recommend you pick up Project Starship X and give it a blast. So now let's get on to rating the game. Now I give games a rating between 1 and 5 stars, and this rating is based on my own personal opinion on the quality and quantity of a title's gameplay and whether I think it offers value for money to potential buyers. For a rating, I'm going to be giving Project Starship X 5 out of 5 stars. You heard that right. I know it's been a meme of the channel now for some time how I don't give games a 5-star rating, but after playing this I've turned a new leaf and this could be the first of many 5-star games this year. If you're even slightly interested in shmups and are looking for something to get you into the genre, or even if you're a veteran and are looking for something a bit different, Project Starship X has a decent difficulty curve and tons of replayability, so go and pick it up right now from the UK Switch eShop for a mere £8.99, or from the US eShop for a very reasonable $9.99. Alternatively, the game's also available on PlayStation, Xbox and Steam. And that about does it for this review of Project Starship X. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, and as always, subscribe to be notified of future Switch reviews I upload every few days. For now though, I want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.